You can start and then we'll add a minute.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abdullah Al-Muhannadi. I'm a medical doctor from Kuwait and a current research student at University College London. I'm pleased to be presenting our work looking at transaxillary access compared to median sternotomy in mitral valve surgery, a meta-analysis. So median sternotomy, known to many of you, is the gold standard in mitral valve surgery. However, patients' demand for shorter hospital stay, faster recovery, and fewer complications has pushed towards adopting more minimally invasive procedures, and one of those is axillary access. Axillary access involves a small incision in the anatomical axilla. However, it doesn't come without challenges, and it does bring about, it is a quite complex procedure. It does have a steep learning curve, and it's not suitable for all patient groups. Evidence from literature does show a few meta-analyses already published in this matter. However, they compared minimally invasive, generally speaking, compared to sternotomy, whereas our study focuses specifically on the axillary access, and there were no meta-analyses published in that matter. We comprehensively searched 4 databases, looking specifically for patients undergoing first-time mitral valve surgery with no restrictions on follow-up, and specifically interested in perioperative outcomes. We excluded patients undergoing more than one procedure, those undergoing urgent or redo operations, or no control group for comparison. So intraoperatively, we were interested in cardiopulmonary bypass time, cross-clamp time, and operation duration. For early post-op, we were interested in the complications. And in terms of recovery, we looked at short-term mortality, duration of hospital stay, ICU stay, and the duration of mechanical ventilation. In terms of statistical analysis, we used the Cochrane Collaboration PRISMA guidelines to conduct the meta-analysis. For baseline characteristics and effects measurement, we used odds ratios and standardized mean differences. A random effects model was applied to account for heterogeneity. I chose to include the table baseline characteristics just to highlight a few discrepancies in comorbidities between the groups. So if you look at hypertension, coronary artery disease, stroke, and diabetes, they were quite different between the two groups, between the axillary and sternotomy. Again, highlighting that the axillary approach is not suitable for all patients, which does highlight the importance of accounting for confounding variables, especially in studies which are non-randomized in nature. And 3 out of these 4 studies did that by propensity score matching. Okay, so results, here we go. Cardiopulmonary bypass time and operation duration highlighted on the forest plots on the right. So if you focus on the small diamond, the black diamond, you can see that's shifted towards the sternotomy group, highlighting longer cardiopulmonary bypass time and operation time in the sternotomy group, a larger number of wound complications and continuous veno-venous hemodialysis in the sternotomy group, comparable bleeding rethoracotomy, myocardial infarctions, and new onset AF post-op, a smaller number of short-term mortality in the transaxillary group, as well as a longer duration of mechanical ventilation in the sternotomy group. Finally, longer ICU stay, hospital stay in the sternotomy group, with fewer patients going home without cardiopulmonary rehabilitation. What do these results tell us? Okay, so shorter ICU stay and hospital stay in the axillary group reflect faster and more efficient recovery time, which, to apply that in the grand scheme of things, would help relieve the load on ICU beds, especially in centers which are quite pressured. The longer duration of cardiopulmonary bypass, wound complications, and the need for hemodialysis in the sternotomy group reflects a physiological burden in the sternotomy group, which does make sense due to the larger incision being used. The learning curve does question whether it's worth training junior residents in these new techniques. And finally, to adopt a patient-centered approach, it's also important to take into account the psychological benefits of having a more cosmetically cosmetically better hidden incision in the axilla. Okay, limitations for studies, all of which were non-randomized, they only focused on short-term follow-up. They excluded complex cases, which limits our ability to generalize the results. And finally, we don't know when surgeons started reporting their outcomes. So again, the learning curve does take an effect. So you heard many guests yesterday talking about a minimally invasive approach. How is our study different? Well, it's a meta-analysis, and it specifically compares the transaxillary to sternotomy. It shows superior operative parameters, short-term post-op, with comparable outcomes. However, this is only in the short term. We cannot generalize the results for long term because the studies only followed patients in the short term. We do need future studies to follow patients long term. We need more randomized trials in order to confirm the durability of the procedure and broaden the applicability of the results. Thank you.